Ya Baraka,
Ya Baraka,
Yahweh,
Yahweh,
YHWH,
YHWH,
Yahweh,
Yahweh,
YHWH, Panyawa al Yaka,
Panyawa al Yaka,
Yachanka,
Yachanka,
Yahweh,
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 Panyawa
al Yaka,
Panyawa al Yaka,
Yasham,
Laka
Shalom,
Laka Shalom,
Yahweh Bahasham,
Yahweh Bahasham,
Yahweh Shah,
Yahweh Shah,
Barak Rapah,
Barak Rapah,
Yahweh, Yahweh Bahasham,
Yahweh Bahasham,
Yahweh Shah,
Yahweh Shah,
Barak Rapah,
Barak Rapah,
YASHARAHLA,
YASHARAHLA.
Yeah. Yeah. When you see some light, that's a breakthrough. Concrete jungle, it's a damn zoo. Eyes wide, while they live on snooze. I'm hoping what you touch impacts some souls. Picture perfect, nigga, like a centerfold. I'm all about my bread, that's the dinner roll. Do it on my lonely, you can send the word. I remember drinking until my speech was slurred. But karma is the bitch, you better treat it right. It's power in these thoughts, she gave me might. But this your life, nigga roll the dice. Eviction notice, try not to notice. But through your ups and downs, trying to find your purpose. Girded in this truth, blocking evil forces. Good intentions, create your invention. No huddle, fourth and inches. Keep on trying, heart of a lion. Keep on climbing on your way to Zion. Highs and lows, no time to fold. Since the snotty nose, I've been kind of bold. Keep on trying, heart of a lion. Keep on climbing on my way to Zion. Highs and lows, no time to fold. But since the snotty nose, I've been kind of bold. You headed to them streets, trying to fill the void. Trying to box with God, trying to win our Floyd. All these traps, gotta count the joy. I lift my voice up like a trumpet though. Wash away these sins and these transgressions. Change your outlook, that's your only weapon. But we the black Jews, these is mental Jews. Trying to set a pace while they drive on cruise. Can't trust they actions, they intent is cruel. I'm from a sunny place where it's shady people. Erase your history and they say we equal. Do your all in this world, they make you feeble. Built these corporations, look how they treat you. Get up on your grind, I'm thinking ownership. I know your past mistakes equate to something better. He give visions to the blind, Helen Keller. Keep on trying, heart of a lion. Keep on climbing on your way to Zion. Highs and lows, no time to fold. Since the snotty nose, I've been kind of bold. Keep on trying, heart of a lion. Keep on climbing on my way to Zion. Highs and lows, no time to fold. But since the snotty nose, I've been kind of bold.
Believe in God?
Yo, why the fuck y'all get so damn religious-fied lately?
Man, look, do I believe in God? Yeah, I guess I do. How else can you have the sun, the moon, and stars and shit like that?
Sun, moon, stars, quasars, motherfuckers sound like they're wood checks. Ain't no God.
When will it stop? Another dead Jake from a cop. Another fiend came through the cop. Another deadlock. Another 8-ball in the sock. Another crime scene on Fox. How did this begin? How was so right just to sin? Hear all my thoughts through the pen. The sorrows of men. When you can't go see your kid. Got no food in the fridge. Is this what life is? Blowing out your pain through a cig. Behind all the bills in the crib. Searching for a light. But it's so dark at night. Walk through the blocks with a knife. Roaches and mice. Locked up, never get a kite. Come to serve the Lord, better fight. Battle in your mind. Hunger pains equate to a crime. Looking all around for a sign. Living in the time where you can't even trust your mom. Rumors of wars, drop bombs. Needles, white lines. Christ be the only lifeline. Everything is all by the sign. Leave it all behind. If I shine, nigga, you shine. If I shine, nigga, you shine.
If I shine, nigga, you shine. If I shine, nigga, you shine. Deeply rooted, bearing fruits of the spirit. Lift my voice, hoping you gon' hear it. I'm in the spirit, you can't kill my vibes. I'm in the spirit, you can't kill my vibes. And if I fall, still I rise. And if I fall, still I rise. And if I fall, still I rise. And if I fall, still I rise.
And I can't question your mercy. That's above the wonders of the sky. And I know through what I've seen, without a doubt you are alive.
They say be careful of the angels you entertain unaware. Words out the book of life seem like the thunder here. Thankful for the time now, just to see another year. It's a different type of feeling when you see your brother cheer. Cause we been through the madness, we done seen each other's tears, Lord knows. Through the furnace of adversities, my enemies conspiring and dreaming of them hurting me. Enemies conspiring and dreaming of them hurting me. This is not the battle of flesh and blood. No one's seen the judgment. He ain't step up out the ark to check the flood. Sworn under an oath in the Most High's covenant. Live by the creed. All these prophets been my brothers since. Still I rise as the world is scorched. As they torture my ancestors, made of me poor. The last days on its way, so we gon' overcome. Only Christ could determine when a soldier's done, yeah.
Deeply rooted, bearing fruits of the spirit. Lift my voice, hoping you gon' hear it. I'm in the spirit, you can't kill my vibes. I'm in the spirit, you can't kill my vibes. And if I fall, still I rise. And if I fall, still I rise. And if I fall, still I rise. And if I fall, still I rise.
And I can't question your mercy. That's above the wonders of the sky. And I know through what I've seen, without a doubt you are alive.
Yeah. Trying hard not to complicate these verses. Soul searching, know these demons out here lurking. Where's your purpose? Cut the grass, see the serpents, feel the curses. Know the devil out here working. Close the curtains, one thing is for certain. We all die one day, but does your soul live? And will he forgive? Only Lord knows this. Tell these clowns settle down, we around. Paint the town red for my ancestors' blood. From the bloodline of Judah, cause my ancestors was. Me and the general, souls identical. Gold flow spiritual, oh so lyrical. Really not your typical Joseph in the physical, Gabar from KC. Indians and Chiefs, ride for my people, we the sons of Maccabees. Open up Pandora's box and had to take a peek. No faith without works, you gon' have to take a leap. We the lost sheep from Jerusalem, we weak. Got bros still asleep, I pray for the weak and build with the strong. Just talk to my cuz, he got a lot going on. I told him keep his head up, he just going through a storm. Our family's been torn apart by the drugs. Heart full of slugs, left his mark in the mud. I wish the love, surrounded by the hate. Made it this far by faith, mercy and grace. Yeah. Made it this far by faith, mercy, and grace.
Deeply rooted, bearing fruits of the spirit. Lift my voice, hoping you gon' hear it. I'm in the spirit, you can't kill my vibes. I'm in the spirit, you can't kill my vibes. And if I fall, still I rise. And if I fall, still I rise. And if I fall, still I rise. And if I fall, still I rise.
And I can't question your mercy. That's above the wonders of the sky. And I know through what I've seen, without a doubt you are alive.
witness, all I see is the truth. Who else gonna believe you ain't believing in you? Faith is the root, obedience is the fruit. All we could do is just pray, cause it's hell down here. In the belly of the beast, and I'm so sincere. Dwelling with my brothers, all I found was hope. Them God's people that you hung on rope. Humble what we had, we was raised up poor. Every soul gon' live, cause this life is short. Can't commune with you niggas unequally yoked. Now I search for your how love. Ain't no love like this. It's time's up. He going back to the bottomless pit. Two or more gather, no God to miss. We in them last days holding on with a grip. And if you look around, you can see he exists. You can see he exists. Yeah.
What you waiting on? Come back to the Father, start obeying. Meditating on His word all day long. Got my mind on the kingdom and it's greatness, greatness. Time fade. What you waiting on? Come back to the Father, start obeying. Meditating on His word all day long. Got my mind on the kingdom and it's greatness.
I'm that black rose that grew up out the concrete. Focus on the things in my reach, not beyond me. My old ways was catching mold. We them lost tribes, greater story never told. Gotta call it out when your heart on froze. Gotta watch and pray on days on end. Be vigilant, cause we gon' win. Keep pressing towards the mark till my eyes don't blink. With the salt of the earth, well seasoned with speech. I gotta reach the lost sheep. Yeah, the world for the meat. All this knowledge where your tongue. Watch how I bench press. And love more, offend less. It's word endless. Spreading truth is my interest. In YHWH, all things become new. Gotta love your brother, stick together like glue. Put my hope in the Lord, got the kingdom in my view.
Time fade, what you waiting on? Come back to the Father, start obeying. Meditating on His word all day long. Got my mind on the kingdom and it's greatness, greatness. Time fade, what you waiting on? Come back to the Father, start obeying. Meditating on His word all day long. Got my mind on the kingdom and it's greatness.
All right, shalom. Come on, brother. Get out of there. Get out of there. Go out. I appreciate you. All right, how everybody doing today? All right, before we get started, we're gonna go into PowerPoint articles, sources, and that's mainly what it's gonna be today. It's not gonna be many precepts. So does anybody have any questions? And if I can answer it to my ability, I will. If not, I'll tell you, shout out to the elders. That's what I say. I don't know everything. So does anybody have any questions? Even brothers at the desk. If anybody has any questions, even if it regards to the academy, anything like that. If not, we could just get into it. Yeah, let's do that. No? Ma, y'all call.
Mark chapter 12, verse 29. And Yahushua answered him, the first of all commandment is, hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one Lord. Shema YASHARAHLA, AHLAHAYANAWA, ACHAAD.
Amen. All right, so I guess no questions since everybody knows it all. Me, myself, you know, I pay attention to the Christian apologetics realm a lot. That's just one thing I do. I like to, for lack of a better term, study my enemies. So what's been going on a lot lately is trying to debunk the so-called African-American man being an Israelite. So I put together some sources, some articles for this presentation now, right? First go to Romans 1 and 16. Romans 8 and 16. Slide. Romans 8 and 16.
This is Romans chapter 8, verse 16.
Read.
The Spirit itself beareth witness.
Say it again.
The Spirit beareth witness with your spirit.
Read it again from the top.
The Spirit
Thank you.
itself.
The Spirit itself, go ahead.
Beareth witness.
Beareth witness, come on.
With our spirit. That we are the children of God.
That we are the children of the Most High. So we can actually end the lesson right there. Because by the Spirit, we know we're the children of God. And nobody should lean you any way by their rhetoric or by their pseudoism or by their craftiness. They should not lead you to not believe that you are not the children of the Most High God. All right? And a lot of things they like to do is talk about these curses. The curses this or the curses that. And how did you know? How can you identify with curses? Well, the Bible says we will. All right? Get Deuteronomy 30. Deuteronomy chapter 30.
This is Deuteronomy chapter 30. And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse.
Say it again.
The blessing and the curse.
So it's going to come to pass when all these things shall come upon thee, the blessing and the curse. So we were going to have dominion. We were going to have rulership. We were going to have all of these things. And then we were going to what? Be put under the curses. Just as we were under the curses in Assyria, in Babylon, in Persia, in Greece, and Rome. Now in our final captivity here in America. And of course, with the Israelites scattered throughout the diaspora, they are also under the curses because they pay taxes, they pay bills. That's a curse. If you didn't know that, you're not under the curses. You, brother, if the Israelites are not ruling the earth, we're under a curse. It's that simple. What's up,
I got Baruch chapter 3 and verse 8. Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity where thou hast scattered us as for a reproach and a curse, to be subject to payments according to all the iniquities of our fathers which departed from the Lord our God.
Subject to payments, meaning for everything that your ancestors did, now you are paying for it. Right. You understand? Read that again, Abadi.
This is Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 1. And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee.
Watch this, go ahead.
And thou shalt call them to mind.
So, hold on. We're going to call them to mind. Go ahead.
Among all the nations.
Among all the nations. That's why when we're in the streets, what do we say? We talk about the blessings. We the kings of the earth, brother. The promises of God. Christ died for us. But then we also talk about the curses. How we're underneath these curses. You understand that? Keep reading.
Whither the Lord thy God hath driven them.
Come on.
Thee. And shalt return unto the Lord thy God, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day. Thou and thy children with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations.
And that's what we're waiting for. We're returning to be, we're asking to come back to the Most High, be placed in his land when he gathers us from all the nations. And we're returning onto him. Get Baruch 2. I believe starts at 28. Kawan, get the Comforter. Shall put you in remembrance. Get that. Get that real quick. Then we're going to get into everything.
Is that Baruch 2 and 28?
I believe so. I know when I hear it.
I got both.
Oh.
This is.
You don't got it?
Got it.
I want our body to get it. Quicker with that sword.
Baruch 2 and 28. As thou spakest by thy servant Moses in the day when thou didst come.
Slow down. Slow down. Don't worry. Yeah.
As thou speakest by thy servant Moses in the day when thou didst command him.
There you go. There's that powerful voice. Get ahead, Abadi.
To write thy law before the children of Israel, saying.
So when Moses wrote the law, go ahead.
If ye will not hear my voice, surely this very great multitude shall be turned into a small number among them.
So the great multitude shall be turned into a small number. This is why they call us what? Minorities. It's in the Bible. Go ahead.
A small number among the nations, where I will scatter them. For I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people. But in the land of their captivities...
Hold on. Go ahead, Slacking. This guy, Kaz messing stuff up. Go ahead.
Chapter 29. If ye will not hear my voice, surely this very great multitude shall be turned into a small number among the nations, where I will scatter them. For I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people. But in the land of their captivities, they shall remember themselves.
So in the land of their captivities, they shall what?
Remember themselves.
How are we going to remember ourselves? Read that, Juan.
It's the book of John, chapter 14 and verse 16. And I will pray the Father, and he shall give you another comforter, that he may abide with you forever.
What's the comforter?
Holy Spirit.
Oh, great. Holy Spirit. It's all right. Go ahead.
Verse 26. But the comforter, which is the Holy Spirit,
there you go. It's in the verse.
Whom the Father will send in my name, he shall teach you all things.
He shall what?
He shall teach you all things, and bring all things to your remembrance whatsoever.
Bring all things to your remembrance. So what is this nonsense that these Christians talk about on all of these YouTube and Clubhouse? And I don't understand what y'all talking about. The Most High said he's sending the Holy Spirit to put all things in your remembrance. What's going on here? It don't make no sense. Mario, you had your hand up?
Concerning Moses.
Go ahead.
This is Nehemiah chapter 1, verse 8. Remember, I beseech thee, the word that thou commandest thy servant Moses, saying, if ye transgress, I will scatter you abroad among the nations.
Say it again.
Say, if ye transgress.
If you transgress, go ahead.
I will scatter you abroad among the nations. But if ye turn unto me and keep my commandments and do them, though there were of you cast out unto the uttermost parts of the heaven, yet will I gather them from thence and will bring them unto the place that I have chosen to set my name.
I'm going into that last. Take that off. I'm not going into that yet. Yeah.
No, that was it right there.
That was it?
Yep.
Okay. So who was scattered throughout the world?
We are.
If we're going into history, who was scattered throughout the world, man? Israelites. It's not. This is not that hard to understand. It's not hard to understand at all. The black men were scattered through slave ships. The so-called natives were scattered through slave ships. Right? Okay. Now, go into the first book, Abayak, page 453. Show the cover of the book first, and then go down to the page. So there's gonna be a lot of, and I'll send it to y'all. You know, y'all got the cheat codes, so I'll send it to y'all. It's gonna be a lot of history, you know, a lot of things like that. So. So you see that this is the Encyclopedia of the Jewish Diaspora, Origins, Experiences, and Culture. Of course, you know how I like to joke around and say dodge the hijack, right? I forget where I get that from. It's from a movie, I think. But obviously it's the Jews, the Israelites, right? Now, a lot of people will walk by this book because they see these guys with these crazy hats on that got nothing to do with you. And say, what the hell, right? They probably call him Mitri. They probably do call, this is Mitri, brother. I don't know what that is on his head, all right? But a lot of people will walk by this and won't crack open the book, all right? So go ahead. Let's go to page 453, page 453. Hey man, you know, it's a good book too. Got the PDF. What's going on? What's going on there, brother? Fruit to the spirit. We gotta be patient for Abaya. You know. You all right there, brother? I know what it's going for. I'm gonna let you know. We're stuck on the same page. 2 minutes. What's going on, brother? Can't you scroll down? I mean, this is taking half an hour. You know? I don't know how people do it. I'm not good with technology. I'd rather just, you know, get a book. Put in the book. This guy. Keep going. Keep going. It's popping up. Yeah. You got a precept? Hey, read the precept in the spirit while we waiting. Oh, we there. But go ahead, read the precept.
Leviticus 26:33. And I will scatter you among the heathen, and will draw a sword after you, and your land shall be desolate, and your cities waste.
It's a good precept.
Call again?
Leviticus 26:33.
All right, let's read that. Once again, the title of this book, Encyclopedia of Jewish Diaspora, Origins, Experiences, and Culture. So go ahead, read that.
From the top.
From the top. Read the title, read that, whatever his name is, and just read.
Migrations of Jews into West Africa. AHLAHAYANAWA.
This guy. Go ahead.
According to most accounts, the earliest Israeli settlements in Africa were in places such as Egypt, Tanzania, and Ethiopia. Historians believe these settlements may have been in existence as early as the kingdoms of David and Solomon, as well as during the Assyrian invasion of northern Israel in 722 BCE. In the Babylonian captivity of Judah in 586 BCE, the Punic in the Punic Carthaginian age, These communities were augmented by subsequent arrivals of Jews after the destruction of the Second Jerusalem Temple in 70 CE, when 30,000 Jewish slaves were settled throughout Carthage by the Roman Emperor Titus.
Now, hands. Where's Carthage? Hands. That means you got to raise your hand to answer the question. Go ahead.
Was it Libya, right?
Yes, correct. Correct. Go ahead.
Africa is identified in various Jewish sources in connection with Tarshish and Ophir. To mid 32b in the parallel passage where African land is evidently the same as Carthage. The Septuagint in Jerome, who was taught by Jews, and often the Targum on the prophets, identified the biblical Tarshish with Carthage, which was the birthplace of a number of rabbis mentioned in the Talmud.
Now, do you know why Carthage will be associated with Tarshish? Because it was a seaport, and Tarshish was known for transporting within ships. Ancient Tarshish is in Spain, but they also had locations in northern Africa. You understand? So it's not saying northern Africans are Tarshish, but these is where certain strongholds are. You understand? I'm not going to get into that whole history. That's a whole nother lesson in itself. But continue to read.
Africa, in the broader sense, is clearly indicated where mention is made of the 10 tribes have been driven into exile by the Assyrians and having journeyed into Africa.
So the 10 tribes went to Africa. Do y'all agree with that? I do. 10 tribes went everywhere. Get that in Hosea 9:17 real quick. See, a lot of people make a mistake when they think the Northern Kingdom just came to America. That's false. But the Northern Kingdom did come to America. But they were also scattered throughout the nations. Read that. Hosea 9:17.
This is the book of Hosea, chapter 9, verse 17.
Go ahead.
My God will cast them away, because they did not hearken unto him, and they shall be wanderers among the nations.
They shall be wanderers among the nations. You see that? Keep reading.
Connected with this is the idea that the river Sambation.
Now you got to go to the next part.
Is in Africa. The Arabs, who is also the legend of the Beni Musa, or son of Moses, agree with the Jews in placing their land in Africa. Migrations into sub-Saharan Africa. In later centuries, Jews are believed to have settled in Western Africa during the height of the Songhai,
Mali, Ghana,
and Kenem-Bornu empires.
In the Kenem-Bornu empires, which is in Western Africa. So they were Jewish, quote unquote, Jewish or Israelite settlements there. You understand? Read.
According to accounts from explorers of the region, several powerful Jewish families of the Songhai Empire were of Jewish origin, until Askai Muhammad came to power and in 1492 decreed that all Jews either convert to Islam or leave the region. According to certain records in Timbuktu, an older community was formed by a group of Egyptian Jews who traveled by the way of Sahel corridor through Chad into Mali.
Go ahead.
Another community was that of the Zua, ruler of Kukaya.
These names are amazing. Go ahead.
Located near the Niger River, whose name is only known as Zua Alayman, or Zua min al-Yaman, meaning he comes from Yemen.
He comes from Yemen. Go ahead.
Local legends state that Zua Alayman was a member of one of the Jewish colonies transported from Yemen
to Abyssinians
by the Abyssinians in the 6th century CE. Zua Alayman is said to have traveled into West Africa along with his brother and eventually established a local Jewish community between Mali and northern Nigeria. Some accounts place West African Jewish communities in the Ondo forest
of Dahomey.
Of Dahomey.
Don't listen, them Dahomey dudes was different. All right? They was some savage Hamites. Now, well, they were Jews in Dahomey, obviously. We're going to read some more sources on that. But them Dahomey dudes was savages. Some of the highest amount of the slave trade came from the kingdom of Dahomey. The tribe wasn't Dahomey, it was a kingdom. Now, a lot of people get that confused, but there was Israelite communities within Dahomey. But these people, man, let me tell you, they were different. All right?
Is that the which part?
The stupid movie, The Woman King? Yeah, I don't like that movie. I thought it was overrated. Ain't no woman could bang like that. Anyway, yeah, keep reading.
South of Timbuktu, in the 1930s, these groups still maintained Torah scroll written in Aramaic that had been burned into parchment with a hot iron instead of ink, so it could not be changed.
You see that? Go ahead.
The decline of the Jewish communities in West Africa, Maghreb, most likely began with the influx of Arab invaders in North Africa, starting in 640 CE and later into West Africa in the 13 and 1400 CE. The Jewish Berber queen.
Berber. Go ahead.
Kahia.
Queen Kahina.
Dahia. Bint Thabita. Ibn Tiffin, who was also known as El Kahina, led the most notable uprising against the invasion. Believed to have been a descendant of Israeli priestly class, El Kahina was able to lead North African Jews, Berbers, Christians, and Greeks alike in the invasion until her defeat at the hands of the Arab commander Hassan ibn Numan.
We're going to get into that a little more, okay?
In the 1600s, the restrictions on Jewish travel from North Africa lessened, allowing Jewish merchants such as Rabbi Mordecai Soror to make trade expeditions between Morocco and Mali.
All right, let's go into the next article. I know that was probably exhaustive and a lot, but it's all going to tie together. It's all going to tie together. Camel caravans, Kashbas, and Berber Jews. All right, let's get down. Let's go down. Let's go down. Right there.
Cross.
Nearly.
Nearly 250,000 Jews once called Morocco home.
250,000 Jews once called Morocco home. Go ahead.
Making it the largest Jewish community in the Arab world. On a recent bright afternoon in Marrakesh, I was contemplating this stunning fact as I walked warrens of the city's ancient Mela, or ghetto, where 50,000 Jews once lived and davened. My destination, 36 Talmud Torah Street,
amazing,
was the Lazima Synagogue, one of 2 active temples out of the 42 that for centuries were the heartbeat of the Marrakesh's Jewish community. Lazima's bright central courtyard was walled with Moroccan blue and white Star of David tiles and open to the sky, seemed to welcome Hashem along with swallows chattering in the orange trees.
Now that's good there, right? The main reason why I went here, because a lot of these people have been influenced by the Ashkenazi and the modern day Sephardim. All right, this is why a lot of these quote unquote Jewish communities in Africa are Old Testament only, right? Even though there is a rise of Israelites becoming out there teaching YHWH. But you have to, there's another history I will teach, right? On the white man, the white Jews going out there and identifying these tribes in Africa as the Northern Kingdom so they can identify themselves as the Southern Kingdom. And teaching them the Talmud and teaching them a lot of things that it was never there, right? But That's another lesson I'm preparing. Go to the next article. It's all going to tie together.
Queen of the Desert, the amazing story of Jewish
Khaleesi. Now, anybody watch Game of Thrones? That's why they saying Khaleesi, right? This is Kahina, Queen Kahina, right? She does not look like that. But let's just read a little bit of the information. Go ahead.
A ruthless, steadfast warrior, as well as a merciful leader who liberated thousands of slaves. This is Dahia el-Kahina, a Jewish Berber North African woman. A Jewish Khaleesi, if you will, but unfortunately not nearly as famous as the Game of Thrones fictional character.
Yeah.
Dahia al-Kahini lived in northern Africa at the end of the 7th century. In Muslim sources, she is described as dark-skinned with lots of hair and huge eyes.
Dark skin. Those are the people that seen her. Read.
Fascinated by her exotic image, historian Nahum Slush described her as fair as a horse, strong as a wrestler, a true desert woman, healthy and fast on her feet, an excellent rider, and a shooter who never misses. And studied her character throughout northern Africa. Slush asserted that Dahina meant Jewish, and that al-Kahina referred to the family of the Kohanim.
Now you can go into her history more yourself. All right, please get that picture off. That's not her. You can go into that history more yourself, right? But you know, this is a real quote unquote woman king.
Come on.
This is the real one. All right. She was more of a general that knew how to make war and lead troops. You understand? That's what she did, right? And those are that's where she liberated. Look at some of those people that lived there. Give me a second. Let's go to the next article. Next article. Matter of fact, it's a book, page 40. Byzantine. You know, that's my favorite, boy.
Byzantine Empire.
That's my favorite history. Can you zoom in when you get the chance? Oh, yeah. All right, let me see. Okay. This page 40, right? Scroll down. Oh, you got your hand up? What's up, bro?
It keeps referring to her as Kohina. Is that the same as Kahan? It said Kohina the priest.
Yes.
Is this quote unquote Haitians we're dealing with?
Yeah, this is the tribe of Levi.
Okay.
Yeah, the tribe of Levi, yes. That's exactly why. It's a good catch. That's a good catch. We could start Kahina's tribe. Start right there. You see where it says Kahina's tribe? Start right there.
It says, Kahina's tribe had settled in the confines of Byzantine-controlled territory. A result of the expropriation policies started by Septimius Severus, and continued by the Byzantines.
Y'all know who Septimius Severus is? Hands. Go ahead, Quan.
Man.
Everybody know.
No, he
Go ahead. This guy's
he
hilarious.
helped conquer Jerusalem.
He helped conquer Rome.
Rome.
He destroyed the Roman Empire. I think it's 193 AD. Right? That's who Septimius Severus is. A black man. Who helped destroy Rome.
On one side.
Actually over superseded it. You are correct, on one side.
On the east side, right?
Right.
Country.
Right. Yeah.
So all we need is the east.
See, Septimius Severus and continued by the Byzantines. Part fiction, part symbolism, or part reality. Kahina was the leader of total resistance against the Arab invader. She may have been no more than a mythical personification of the collective Berber consciousness, which, whether whether in the form of Judaism or so-called God-fearing people, held to the legitimacy of a pre-Islamic monotheism, which was in harmony with the fierce tribal independence of mountaineers. When the Byzantine Emperor Constant II was able to reconquer Africa, he did not completely succeed in recuperating all the territories of the Exarchate. Whether already penetrated by Islam or not, the indigenous population had taken the opportunity to loosen its ties from Byzantium. Since 666, all the south,
a weird number.
All the south of Byzantine province had escaped the authority of the
Basilius.
Of the Basilius. When Uqba bin Nafi started his conquest in North Africa, he penetrated the regions of Nafta and Tozur, occupying Gafsa. The main resistance came from the Berber leader Koselia and the Judo-Berber prophetess, the Kahina. The legend of the Kahina becomes an extension of the history of the Jews under Byzantium, because earlier the North African Jews had escaped into the irredentis of friendlier Berber regions. It seems that the Kahina participated in with Koselia in the Battle of Tahudium in 683, where the conqueror Uqba bin Nafis achieved his aim of dying as a shaheed. 5 years later, attacking from Barca under orders of the Caliph Abdulmalik, the troops of Zohir ibn Qais succeeded in defeating and liquidating Koselia.
So this is just some history of the Berber Jews in North Africa fighting against the invasion of the Arab conquest. Now, this will help you to begin to understand why one of the most prominent religions in North and Western Africa is what? Islam. We're going to keep getting into it. Next article. Now, anybody seen Roots? Y'all seen Roots, right? Okay. What was the tribe in Africa? What were they worshiping in Roots before they got conquered in slave ships? They were Muslims. That's what they were. Do you know that there were actually documented Muslim slaves here in America? We're going to get into it. Okay.
In the midst of us?
Yeah, in the midst of us. They were Muslim slaves, absolutely. Because we were Muslims in the West. You know what I'm saying? We were Muslims in the west coast of Africa.
So I got a quick question.
Yes, sir.
How did the sub-Saharan slave trade tie in with
louder?
The sub-Saharan slave trade, how did that tie in with the transatlantic? Like, what was the dispensation of time?
I forget exactly the time, but I know the transatlantic slave trade started in 1492, going across. But the first slave ships going from Portuguese going to the west coast of Africa started in 1441, I believe it is.
Right.
The sub-Saharan slave trade is about 100 to 200 years before that.
Okay.
But it was going on for a long dispensation of time.
Okay.
Right? Fighting against the Jews, even fighting against the Hamites.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So.
Who is Omar ibn Said?
Now that's his name, Said.
Said, North Carolina's enslaved Muslim scholar.
You see that? North Carolina's enslaved Muslim scholar. Okay?
Many Africans enslaved in North America were Muslims.
So there's what the conscious community likes to say, nobody in slavery knew about the Bible. If you know about the Quran, you know about what?
The Bible.
So what are we talking about?
Yeah,
These are these dumb arguments that people make because they don't know a simple history like this.
Right.
Keep reading.
Most Africans enslaved in North America were Muslims, whether openly or in secret. One such man left a rich written trail This is the story of Omar ibn Said.
Can you make it large, Doc? It's mad small. It's hard to read. Yeah.
In the early 19th century, an enslaved African man in North Carolina captured the attention of Southern society. To white America, this man was no ordinary slave. He was literate and wrote in a strange language. He converted to Christianity. He seemed to be a scholar.
Damn websites with these ads, man. You zoom in? Go out.
The man's name was Omar ibn Said, and he came from a learned Muslim background in West Africa.
Mm-hmm.
He had been captured as an adult and sent across the Atlantic Ocean in 1807, just as the United States Congress was finally taking steps to abolish the international slave trade. Once in North America, Omar became somewhat of a celebrity. Although he was returned to slavery after his escape, Omar continued writing. By the time he died in 1863, he had composed numerous pieces. This included the only Arabic autobiography in America from the period. Given the significance of this document, it only makes sense to delve into the life of its writer.
Scroll down. That's where he came from. Senegal or Senegalese. We're going to talk about that in a second. Okay? Scroll down. Zoom in.
Omar ibn Said's exact birth date is not known, but scholars believe he was born around 1770 in Futo Toro in the north of modern Senegal. As a young adult, he studied the Quran, Islam's holy book, and the other Islamic teachings. Given his 25 years spent undergoing theological study and his interactions with important Muslim scholars, Omar most likely came from a wealthy family. His ethnic group, the Fulani, had had converted to Islam earlier than the neighbors, and they held great pride in their religious devotion. Over the centuries, many notable Fulani people had fought vigorously in the name of Islam.
Scroll down.
Disaster would strike Omar's life, however. War broke out between the Fulani and rival non-Muslim ethnic groups, causing thousands of people to be captured and enslaved on both sides. Omar's prominent background could not save him. Forced on board a slave ship, he was transported across the ocean to Charleston, South Carolina, the Christian country, as he would later call North America.
Now that's good right there, right? We could go into the next one. So, I wanted to show you a documented slave, right, that was a Muslim, also known to be a scholar, that left Islam and went to Christianity. Though, if you read some of his accounts, he was still practicing Islam behind closed doors.
Damn.
All right? I'm going there for a reason. Remember, he's from where? He's from Senegal. Also, with the Fulani. They also have the Olaf there. Okay? Let's go on to the next one.
Sign up for... Nah,
you kidding me? Stupid.
In Senegalese bush, Bani Israel tribe claims Jewish heritage.
Panah Israel, meaning the sons of Israel.
Bani Israel, Senegal, he will welcome you into his eastern floor home, introduce you to his 3 wives.
Come on.
He's in the spirit. And let you sample their cooking.
Sample the cooking of 3 wives. Let's go.
But Doug, come on, man. Who's that say?
What?
The Gutio.
Hey, I'm going with that. The Gutio.
The Gutio. I'm gonna call him D. Fadiga does not want foreigners to come near the sacred tree of his village deep in the Senegalese bush.
Mm-hmm.
The tree is holy ground. Wow. Says Fadiga, president of this remote settlement of 4,000 souls. Our Jewish ancestor Jacob.
Our Jewish ancestor Jacob. Go ahead.
Planted it when his people first settled here 1,000 years ago.
Go ahead.
The lush pot tree towers over the parched shrewberry at the edge of Bani Izrio, a dusty community in eastern Senegal near the border with Mali. The residents, all Muslims.
The residents are all Muslims in Senegal, but they know they have Israelite ancestry. Go ahead.
Are members of a tribe whose name means son of Israel. And they trace their lineage to two clans, Sila and Drain. They say they are descended from Egyptian Jews. We are all practicing.
Hold on. They said they are descended from where?
Egyptian Jews.
Egyptian Jews. We're gonna get into that. All right, when we go into the PowerPoint. Egyptian Jews. Yes.
I got a surah I can read.
Nah, I don't want no surah.
All right, that's what it is.
I don't want no surah, man.
You know
we could go to. I know exactly. I got all the surahs, man.
45 and 16.
Nah, I don't want no surah, man. Go to Second Maccabees. Let me see. I think it's to prove a point. You just sparked. I'm glad you said that. You sparked the precept in my head, even though I don't want to go to a surah.
Come.
Second Maccabees 1:1. Second Maccabees 1:1.
This is Second Maccabees chapter 1, verse 1. The brethren, the Jews that be at Jerusalem and the land of Judea, wish unto the brethren, the Jews that are throughout Egypt.
The what?
The Jews that are throughout Egypt.
The Jews that are throughout Egypt. You see that? That's Second Maccabees 1:1. So in the Bible, even I believe it might be in Acts 2 as well. The Jews are in Egypt.
It is 2 and 10.
Is there as well?
Yeah.
Acts 2.
Acts 2. Let's go there real quick. Why not? Why not?
2 and 10. 10.
Acts chapter 2, verse 10. Phrygia and Pamphylia in Egypt.
And what?
In Egypt.
We can stop right there. So we know where they are Jews in Egypt. They said right here that they came from Jews in Egypt and now they're on the west coast of Africa. They're not the only tribe that says this. We're going to get into another tribe in another country on the west coast of Africa that says the same thing. Let's go back to the article.
It says, we are all practicing Muslims, and we actually, guys, where did I go?
No, you can start right there. It's all right.
Okay. We are all practicing Muslims, and we don't want to become Jewish, Fadiga says. In fact, we don't like to talk too much about our Jewish background, but we don't hide it either. We know our people come from Egypt to Somalia, and from there to Nigeria, where they split about 1,000 years ago.
You see that? So they went from Egypt to Somalia. Then from there, they went to Nigeria. This is what they're saying. I don't think a Jewish man that made converts will convince people to say this. If they're saying this, they're saying this. Well, where's your sources? What? Anyway, go ahead.
Where they split about 1,000 years ago. One branch of the two families went to Mali, another to Guinea, and we settled here.
What now?
The truth of such claims is difficult to establish, but West Africa has a documented Jewish presence since at least the 14th century, when several Jewish merchants set up shop in Timbuktu in western Mali. Jews kept trickling from Spain and Portugal during the Inquisition.
Now, of course, you see the Jews, and we're going to deal with that. The Jews in Spain and Portugal coming into Africa during the Spanish Inquisition, where they kicked the Jews out of Spain and Portugal, and they began to settle in Africa and flee in Africa. Khan? Keep reading.
Of the 15th and 16th centuries, and later from Morocco. Gideon Bahar, Israel's former ambassador to Senegal, says Jews maintained a constant presence in the area until 1943, when the last Jewish settlement was uprooted from Guinea-Bissau, Senegal's southern neighbor, then a Portuguese colony under the rule of pro-fascist dictator Antonio de Oliveira Salazar. B'nai Israel is a striking example because of its name, but there are many other ways in which this area's little known but rich Jewish presence has influenced it, says Bahar, one of the few Westerners have visited B'nai Israel.
Scroll down. We're not going to read all of it. We're going to read a little more.
Bahar believes the historic presence is responsible for some of the faint Jewish traces still available in the region. West African musicians often decorate the traditional 21-string bridged harp known as kora with Jewish symbols, including the Star of David. And some words in Wolof, a widely spoken language in Senegal, bear more resemblance to Hebrew pronunciation than Arabic, which is spoken in neighboring countries.
Mm-hmm.
The Wolof word for cheek is pronounced lakai, as in Hebrew. One of Wolof's words for wise is pronounced the same as Hebrew word chacham. A weaver or fabric merchant is called rab, similar to rabbi.
So, not only do you have a phonetic connection, you also have an oral tradition, and you have historical documentation of Israelites in the west coast of Africa before the transatlantic slave trade. Okay, let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next one. Page 116. Start there. Don't ask me why I read these books, but you know, I just be reading. But,
read.
You know? Just wait till they get there. At least it's not 400, so I'm only 116. Okay. Zoom in. Oh. Scroll down. Scroll down. Go up. So lock it. Hey, just start right there. Anxieties. Just start right there.
The menace of Jewish proselytism amongst Africans and Amerindians?
Amerindians.
Talking
about natives.
Okay. Anxieties and fantasies about Jewish proselytizing did not just arise in a European context. In the overseas colonies of the Spanish and Portuguese empires, the presence of large indigenous populations whose Christianization was relatively recent and indoctrination often inadequate, gave rise to the fear that Judaizing conversos would seek to turn them into Jews. The first context of Iberian explorers and missionaries with the various sub-Saharan African peoples gave rise to speculation about the presence of Jews amongst these populations. It was believed...
So these are men coming to proselytize them into their religion, but they're finding people practicing these things in the places that they're going. Listen, okay?
It was believed, for instance, that there existed Jews, albeit non-practicing ones, settled amongst the coastal populations of West Africa. In an early work painted in 1506, the Lisbon-based German printer Valentin Fernandez claims that among the Wolof people of
Senegambia,
there are Jews called Gaul.
Go ahead.
And they are black like the people of the land, although they do not have synagogues nor practice the rights of other Jews.
They don't practice the rights of other Jews. What does that mean? Hands. That?
They don't keep practicing the Talmud.
There you go. They are not under Sephardic or Ashkenazi influence. So they're not keeping the same exact customs of other Jews. Khan? Back.
And they are black like the people of the land, although they do not have synagogues nor practice the rights of other Jews.
So this proves that not all of the Jews, right? And I have the primary source for this, so don't play with me. I got it. But this shows right here that not all of the Jews on the west coast of Africa were converts, if that's the game you want to play. Because these people were not keeping the same customs of Judaism as the people within Europe. Keep reading. I'm going to get there as well, but keep reading.
They do not live with the other blacks, but apart in their own villages.
Mm-hmm.
Later Portuguese authors similarly argued that the griots, the intern storytellers who lived in the midst of the populations of West Africa, must be Jews. The role played by deeply ingrained anti-Semitic prejudices and pushing Portuguese observers to fantasize about the existence of Jews residing amongst West African peoples is evident in Andre Alvarez da Almada's 1594 description of Cape Verde. For that Portuguese author, that Jewish origin of the griots is confirmed by the fact, like Jews, they possess large noses.
So you see, this is the slander that they push, right? But I already went to the main part I wanted to go to, right? The goals. Let's go into the next one. And this is from them, Jewish Virtual Library, right? I love using them against themselves. Why not? You might not be able to zoom in that much, but it's good. You can read it?
Yeah. It says, during the 8th century, the Radanites, Jewish African multilingual traders, began to settle in Timbuktu, Mali. There they established a trading center.
The 8th century. Go ahead.
There they established a trading center from which they set up a network of trading routes throughout the desert. More Jews began to arrive in the 14th and 15th centuries, fleeing from the Spanish Inquisition. And in 1492, the local king, Iskai Muhammad, threatened the Jews with death if they did not convert to Islam. As the historian Leo Africanus wrote in 1526, the king is declared enemy of the Jews. He will not allow any to live in the city. If he hears it is said that a Berber merchant frequents them or does business with them, he confiscates his goods.
So what does that mean? The Jews were amongst what? The Berbers. Where are the Berbers? All throughout northern Africa. So you see, you have a trace from Jews in Egypt, Jews all throughout northern Africa, Jews in Mali, going all the way down to Jews on the west coast of Africa. You have Jews all throughout Africa. Till this day. Keep reading.
Scroll to the right up there. You didn't even have to do all that.
No, it's not there, is it? No, that's all the same.
The king Iskai is declared the enemy of the Jews. He will not allow any to live in the city if he hears it is said that a Berber merchant frequents them or does business with them. He confiscates his goods. While some chose conversation, many fled from the country. In 1860, Rabbi Mordecai Abi Suror migrated from Morocco with several Jews to trade in Timbuktu. Rabbi Suror had to negotiate with the local authorities to obtain protected people status. The nearly arrived congregation established a synagogue and Jewish cemetery in the area. By the 20th century, no Jews remained in Mali.
Okay, so you can leave it there. Now, the next one we're going into is an extremely important source. All right, like scholars like to say, it's peer-reviewed. This is no lie. This is college material because that's who I got it from. I got it from an actual scholar, right? Shout out to him. I ain't gonna say his name. He asked me not to. Shout out to him. He gave it to me a while back, about 2 years ago, right? He has his PhD. He's in the Israelite community, right? Has his PhD. This guy knows what he's talking about, and especially in this topic. So the next source is very important and not to be taken lightly. Let's go to it. And of course, I'm gonna give it to you. I'm gonna drop it all in the chat. Let's look at that first. Look, a journal of hold on, go up. A Journal of African Studies from UCLA. All right, yeah, read that.
UFAHAMU, a Journal of African Studies. Beyond the Saharan Cloak, uncovering Jewish identity from southern Morocco and throughout the Sahara.
Now you can jump down. Don't worry, I'm gonna send it to you. Go ahead.
Abstract?
Yeah, start at the abstract. You gotta zoom in on. Why is yours side by side? That's weird. Yeah, it's probably the computer. Difference on the computer.
Abstract. From the end of the medieval period until the early modern era, regional anti-Semitic violence in Northwest Africa forced Jews to convert and or flee into other lands. A legacy of imposed invisibility through illegality of Judaism and fear of expressing a Jewish faith identity was a consequence of intolerance towards Jews. For their own safety, Jewish persons had to conceal their faith identity. In doing so, what appears to be a lack of Jewish presence in
what appears to be a lack of Jewish presence, okay,
may simply be a strategic
go ahead, concealment. So when they say, oh, show me them keeping the laws, show me them keeping Israelite customs, do you not understand the environment and the historical atmosphere that was going on during that time?
They had to keep them on the low.
They had to keep it on the low. The same thing that happened in Spain and Portugal. If you do not convert to Catholicism, get the hell out. And what began to happen? They called them Moranos, which means silent Jews, which is where you get the origin of Moreno from. Right? Dark skin. These were Jews in Spain and Portugal, we're going to get there, that were keeping the customs of an Israelite on the low. The same thing happened in Africa. Read that again.
Jewish persons had to conceal their faith identity. In doing so, what appears to be a lack of Jewish presence may simply be a strategic concealment of one's interior faith conviction. This paper explores how Western institutional oversight by organizations and scholars continually perpetuates the impression of Jewish absence from these spaces. Further, the paper seeks to challenge a visible lack of Jewish presence in West Africa by analyzing the complexity of conversation and conversion and investigating seemingly invisible identities.
See that? Go ahead.
Lastly, the paper examines how the efforts of Jewish persons to become undetectable have contributed to the historical illusions of Jewish presence in West Africa.
Read that quote real quick. Now this guy, you should look this guy up. I actually brought him out a while ago when I did the 12 tribe breakdown. I'm gonna do that again soon, by the way. I'm just gonna get through things like this first. I'm gonna deal with the Southern Kingdom, then I'm gonna go to the Northern Kingdom, then I'm gonna go through the tribes itself. Look at it.
The cemetery of the Jews in Timbuktu is today a simple dune covered in shrubs without epitaphs. This is the last domain of some forgotten deaths in history. Ismail, Daidi, do you say that?
Haidara. Should look him up. All right. I believe in the 1990s he began to correlate a lot of Israelite history. Zoom in out. Okay. I don't know if you was gonna do something to help. You could do that if you want.
When faced with
hold on. I think he's gonna do something.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Abayat. Whatever you're gonna do.
I got a question.
What's up?
So these people are being thrown out of their houses, right, for professing to be a Jew, right? Would this be in accordance with like 2 Ezra 16 and 17?
Read it.
16 and 7. This is 2 Ezra chapter 16 and 70. For there shall be in every place and in the next cities great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. They shall be like mad men, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as gold in the fire.
2 Ezra what?
16 and 70. Down to
16 and 70.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhat. Yeah, you could correlate that. Yeah.
When faced with adversity, the expression fight or flight is too simple a binary to understand the Jewish response to historical moments of persecution if understood as a physical movement alone. Rather than merely looking at corporeal movement, which often is accompanied other responses, one must evaluate how new personas evolve in response to political shifts in order to conceal a Jewish faith identity, and how this evolution was more passive and often camouflaged attempt to resist the climate and policies intolerant of the Jewish faith. This paper seeks to understand this faith and identity transition, specifically with the Jews in Morocco after the Iberian expulsion into the 18th century, and how the history of these Jews is largely overlooked once within or south of the Sahara. First, the paper recognizes the misdirected histories that have contributed to the scholastic and cultural concealment of Jewish persons within and south of the Sahara, and additionally, how Western institutions neglect these southern populations, rendering them invisible. Second, it identifies the complexity of Jewish persons who elected to cloak their identities to avoid persecution, and what methodological approaches must be taken to recognize these mechanisms of disguise. Finally, I engaged the small body of literature documenting the experiences of Moroccan and Saharan Jews, which will aid in the uncovering of identities and the construction of this history. Thus, I hope to draw attention to this demographic who was motivated to relocate to or remain in Northwest Africa during the metaphorical seesaw of toleration prevalent in this multi-century time frame.
Multi-century time frame. So this was happening over hundreds of years. You understand? Mm-hmm. This is a very important history to understand, especially when people say, "Show me the brother." Like you have, even though there are hints of it there. This is what this is going into. Why there were only hints of it and not full-fledged through centuries of synchronism, which is combining other Hamitic traditions that were there with the Jews, with centuries of conversion going into Islam, and then cloaking yourself or hiding yourself so you can actually not face persecution. Yeah. What is it?
2 Maccabees 6 and 6.
Read it. You can read that.
Chiefly to Greece, but there's nothing more to the side.
Right.
2 Maccabees 6.
Loud.
This is 2 Maccabees chapter 6 and verse 6. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient feasts or to profess himself at all to be a Jew.
Right. And like the brother said, there's nothing new under the sun. So these things are recycled throughout the generations of time. It's a good precept. Yeah, keep reading.
misdirected histories. The southern blind.
Good, brother? Need some water?
Doing good, man.
In the Saharan cloak. The history of Judaism in Morocco is a pivotal site for understanding the migration and presence of the Jews in the 15th to 18th century in Northwest Africa. The treatment of the Jews in Morocco considerably shaped the transmission and maintenance of Jewish religion and culture throughout the Sahara and beyond. However, the preservation of Jewish identity was threatened due to the climate of intolerance, which culminated with the official expulsion of the Jews from the Iberian Peninsula in the last decade of the 15th century. The heightening of atrocities against Jewish persons continued to fluctuate for the next few centuries into the Inquisition era. This continuation of persecution and prejudice contributed to the reoccurrent movement south into regions more tolerant of Jewish identity and or the motivation to reject old and develop new external identities.
Nah, you could. We're not gonna read this whole thing, right? I just wanted to show you. Don't worry, y'all gonna get it. Any brothers that it's not in the chat, y'all can hit me up personally, and I'll send it to you. Once again, the historical atmosphere of what's going on during the time of the transatlantic slave trade is important to understand. Also, the atmosphere that was even going on with the internal wars between the tribes in Africa. Khan? All right. Now, we're going to get into the PowerPoint. Let's see if I'm right. I think that's the last thing. Yep. We're going to get into the PowerPoint. We're going to get into it. You can make it. Yeah, there you go. African Americans are Jews, right? That's what I had to go with, straight up, right? That's the name of the PowerPoint, because they are attacking this position. You understand that? They are, and we need to not be. Matter of fact, get that real quick. Sirach 5, I think it's 15. Let me see. The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 5 and verse 15. Yes, I'm right.
This is Sirach, chapter 5, verse 15. Be not ignorant of anything in a great manner or a small.
So don't be ignorant in anything in a great manner or a small. Right? Like I always say, you don't have to know everything, but you have to know a little bit about everything. You do. Now let's read. Let's go to the next slide. It's a very good book. It might be a little blurry, right? Just bear with me. The Black Image in the White Mind, right? You could read that excerpt that I want you to read out. We're not going to read the whole page, just a part of it.
Right.
Page 75. He's going to read it out. He got it.
In Crania Egyptica, Egypt.
You got it out. Egyptica.
Published in 1844, Morton pointed out that both cranial, that's a C, cranial and archaeological evidence showed that the Egyptians were not Negroes, as abolitionists and colonizationists had maintained.
Now, what you have to understand is this is double. The double is this also has to deal with the demonic Hamitic hypothesis. But in the same breath, this is also proving that the Negroes of America are not Egyptians. Okay? You going to Exodus? Just read, brother. Just read, brother. Nah, you good. We good. I know exactly where you was going. We was here with it, but you good. The Lord made a difference. The Lord made a difference between the Israelites and the Egyptians. Good precept, huh?
Maintained. And that, in fact, blacks had been relegated to the Morton's Salakia, to the same servile position.
The same servile position, go ahead.
In ancient Egypt.
So blacks are facing the same thing. Keep reading. Read that again.
Blacks have been relegated to the same servile position in ancient Egypt as in modern America.
I also have another source that says through them studying the monuments and archaeology in Egypt, they see that Negroes were slaves there. Once again, this is double, because you also have to go into the Hamitic hypothesis to understand this. Why did you turn that off? Okay. So you have to go into the Hamitic hypothesis to understand this. But in the same breath, they shall fall upon their own tongue. Keep reading.
All Morton's findings were interpreted as supporting the belief that Negroes were permanently inferior to whites. And eventually, he followed the logic of his discoveries to the point of arguing that Negroes had been separately created to inhabit tropical Africa, and that only Caucasians were authentic descendants of Adam.
Now, of course, we know this is all nonsense. I read the part that I wanted to read. Right? Now go to the next slide. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. We're going to get into some sources. Go ahead. Philo, yeah.
Philo reports that in his time, Egypt and Libya, from Kabathmos, Salome, to Ethiopia, had a Jewish population of about 1 million. Modern scholars do not think this is an exaggeration, and the figure is confirmed by papyri.
So you see, I don't know why it's black there, and what I got, every time I said something, Apayaka gets messed up. But there was 1 million Jews in Egypt. This is what this is saying. Now, from the sources we read before, you good. You don't even gotta do that right now. You good. Don't worry. So, in the sources we read before, where did they say they came from and migrated from? Do y'all remember? Or y'all sleeping? Hands. Where?
Somalia
and Egypt.
And over to the west.
And then went over to the west coast of Africa. This is a historical source, right? That says, Philo saying this, that 1 million Jews were in Egypt. You got something?
Zephaniah 3 and 10.
Yeah.
It's the book of Zephaniah, chapter 3 and verse 10. From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. My suppliants, even the daughter of my dispersed, shall bring mine offering.
Which is talking about them being scattered from the Nile River going to the west coast of Africa. Now, next one. Right? Yep, let's go.
Ghana.
Whoa, brother. Whoa, what's going on? Okay, guy.
Ghana, or as it was called by its inhabitants, Ouagadougou.
Okay.
Ouagadougou, around CE 100 by the Soniki, who, according to their tradition, migrated from the city of Sanin, Aswan, in Upper Egypt to the region of southeastern Mauritania.
So, what do you see again? You see people in Ghana saying they came from migrating from Egypt. You can't make this stuff up. Next one.
There are tribes in Africa whose Hebraic customs and oral histories identify them as authentic descendants of the nation of Israel.
Gunshots.
It must be noted that throughout the culture and history of the
Gadamis, I believe.
Gadamis, tribe of Ghana is strong conclusive evidence that they are direct descendants of the Hebrew Israelites that migrated to West Africa by way of Egypt, Ethiopia, Sudan, and Lake Chad.
See that? And the sources are there. You don't gotta read the sources. The sources are there. Look at it. Next slide. Let's go.
The Jewish historian Tamar Kemp stated that it is not the sum of the groups in Africa finally woke up to find out that they are Hebrew Israelites. Kemp argues that these African groups have always known who they are. They remember their oral history and their connection to their past when their ancestors reigned supreme in the motherland, Israel. Kemp claims there are many groups of non-traditionally North Africans that are of Hebrew descent.
Next slide.
You want to read this?
The etymology? Yeah, etymology.
The etymology of the same Ghana means strong warrior king.
So you see the etymology of Ghana from what they're saying in Ghana means strong warrior king. Now, in the Hebrew lexicon, it means ruler or king. That's what Ghana means in the Hebrew. So the word Ghana is Hebrew in itself. Well, what are we talking about here? Next slide. Next slide. This is important.
Okay.
Okay.
According to Saint Jerome, under the Pax Romana,
the Pax Romana is something all of y'all should study and get familiar with. So y'all should write that down. Y'all should study and get familiar with, because this even helps you understand the letters of Paul and why he wrote the way he wrote. Keep reading.
The Jewish communities underwent a period of great prosperity all the way from India to the western tip of Africa.
So from India to the western tip of Africa. Go ahead.
Their numbers were bolstered as well by the 30,000 Jews that Titus, a prominent general prior to becoming Roman emperor from 79 to 81, had deported from Israel to North Africa after the fall of Jerusalem and the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 AD. By this time, there were scattered all over North America, Slovakia, North Africa, a large number of Jewish communities who had taken refuge there, or who, according to Josephus, had been enslaved and subsequently redeemed by their co-religionists. That's the word. The Jews built synagogues and elected leaders who strove to endow the community with a strong and efficient foundation. This chain of events occurred once again following Bar Kokhba's Bar Kokhba's insurrection from 132 to 135. The failure of his revolt led directly to the expulsion of the Jews of Israel, who had also been enslaved and redeemed by their North African brethren.
So you see right here, it even says from North Africa to India to the western tip of Africa, we have communities of Israelites.
Ain't that something?
Keep going.
You want me to read that to the right?
Yeah, read that to the right. So the Tariq al-Fatish, these are documents found in Timbuktu. Right now, the points on the side is what's within the documents, and you'll see the document to the left. What's on the side is what's underlined. All right, so let's see what this says.
All right. In 1402 CE, there was a sizable Bani Israel community in
Tenderma,
Mali.
Go ahead.
They were rich, owned plantations, and built 333 wells. Author's father told him this.
Go ahead, next.
There were seven rulers.
This is also the Tariq al-Fatish.
Khan. This is also the Tariq al-Fatish. There were seven rulers from the Panah Israel.
Gabaryam. You don't got to read it. Okay. These are all Hebraic names. Crazy. All right. You see that? Let's go to the next one. We're going to go to another guy. We're going to go to another document found in Timbuktu. Okay?
Records of
Hold on, let him get there. Next one, brother. I appreciate that, guy.
He did?
Yeah.
Records of
Al-Yahud
in Mali. Arabic trade document. Hebrew cursive on left side.
So there's Hebrew cursive on the left side. Go ahead.
Mentions
Allahu Ha-Yahud.
AHLAHAYANAWA.
This guy. The letters from Jews end in Ha-Yahud. You see that? So these are all Israelite documents within Mali. Right? So it's not just historians, there's documentation for this. Next.
Right. East of Great Papo begins the Dahomey territory, guarded by the important town of Glehuke, known to the Europe.
These names, man.
You're killing us, man. Come on, man. Back to the Bible.
Yeah,
known to Europeans by the various names of Fida, Hivada, Wida, and Wida. The old writers called it Judah. Here we go.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. And its inhabitants were said to be the Jews.
And its inhabitants were said to be the Jews. In the homie. Yeah.
During the flourishing days of the slave trade,
from
16 to 18,000 were annually transported from Ahuda to the Portuguese called this place, which at the time had a population of 35,000.
So these places where they're saying they are inhabitants of Jews, the Portuguese are taking slaves from. It's in the source. I'm not making this up. Next slide. Yeah.
Ready?
Go ahead.
Wida.
You just put is an ancient city. Don't worry.
Is an ancient city frequented since the 16th century by Portuguese slave traders who gave it its name. Its inhabitants were said Judaic and were viewed as a remnant of the scattered tribes of Israel.
There you go. Another witness to it. Where slaves are coming from. Next slide. See, the books is right there, man.
Africans in colonial Louisiana.
Colonial.
Africans in colonial Louisiana. Although the Company of the Indies had a trading post at Judah, parentheses, it competed there with all the nations of Europe. The Portuguese were taking the upper hand at Judah. The kings of Andres Ardris, parentheses, were hostile to the Europeans and interrupted trade. The slave trade at Judah was becoming uncertain and unprofitable. Between 1726 and 1731, almost all the slave trade voyages organized by the Company of the Indies went to Louisiana. 13 slave ships landed in Louisiana during these years. All but one of them left from Senegambia.
There goes Senegal again. Go ahead.
Over half the slaves brought to French Louisiana, 3,250 out of 5,987, arrived from Senegambia during this 5-year period. The last ship, arriving in 1743, also came from Senegambia.
Next page.
The Dada of the Homie overthrew.
Not you, Abaya. Go ahead.
The Dada of the Homie overthrew the kingdom of Judah on March 3rd, 1727. Captain Rangard of Lee Marie wrote a detailed eyewitness account of the warfare, which totally disrupted commerce in the region. On February 12, 1729, the captain of the slave ship La Medusa wrote from Judah, "There are no more inhabitants, and the country is deserted." You can image how hard it is. Maybe I'm supposed to imagine. You can imagine how hard it is to find captives. The Company of the Indies was at last in a position to enforce its exclusive right to trade the Senegal concession. Between 1727 and 1729, practically every slave trade voyage organized by the Company of the Indies from its port of Lawrence was intended to carry slaves to Louisiana.
So we've seen in the other source, it said how many people were there, to in the later years saying there's barely anybody there. All right? And then you see these same sources where these people are getting slaves from, they're saying they are Jews there. Next slide.
This from the source Western African History by Robert O. Collins. The inhabitants of Bani were, when our author last visited Chatport, accounted about 3,000. They were a mixture of the Igbo and Hebo and the Brass tribes.
Now watch this.
The Igbos, who are also from a neighboring country, have already been spoken of as a superior race.
So they're saying the Igbos are a superior race. Everybody should know what precept I'm talking about. What precept am I talking about?
Job.
Deuteronomy 7:6.
Oh, all day.
Above all people. They were saying this about them. You could go to the next slide. Now look, now let's read more about these Igbos. Or the Igbo.
Igbo.
Yeah.
Among the Igbos of Nigeria is the source by G.T. Boston. Damn, this shit crazy. Boston. The Igbo country lies within a recognized Negro belt, and the people bear the main characteristics of that stock. There are certain customs which rather point to Levite influence at a more or less remote period. This is suggested in the underlying ideas concerning sacrifice and in the practice of circumcision. The language also bears several interesting parallels with Hebrew idioms.
Next source. Hey, I'm not making this stuff up. I'm just reading. Take it up with the guys that wrote it down. Okay? Now you see the book on the side. You see the highlight. Okay?
All right.
A fact worthy.
A fact worthy, the intention of travelers is that according to Oldendorf, the kingdom of Loango contains black Jews scattered throughout the country.
Mm-hmm.
They are despised by the Negroes.
Say it again.
They are despised by the Negroes.
So black Jews are despised by the Negroes, meaning of the other black people of that land. The Hamites. Go ahead.
Who do not even deign to eat with them.
They don't even eat with them. Go ahead.
They are occupied in trade and keep the Sabbath so strictly that they do not even converse on that day. They have a separate burying ground, very far from any habitation. The tombs are constructed with masonry and ornamented with Hebrew inscriptions.
You're good right there. Next source.
This is
this is the source itself. You can read it.
The Pennsylvania State University Libraries. A tribute for the Negro, being a vindication of the memorial intellectual.
Good, next slide. That's just the source right there, right?
Yeah, come.
All right, now zoom in to where in the bottom, right here. Can you see that? If not, I'll read it.
No.
You can't see it? I got it. I got it.
I can see it.
Where it says detachments?
Yeah, detachments. Detachments of the Arabian family migrated 11 or 1200 years ago into northern Africa, where they have founded states of some importance, and in some instances, they have passed into perfectly black complexion. Although improved in form and stature, and notwithstanding that they reside to the north of the Negro countries. A remarkable fact in the history of Loango and the Empire of Congo is that the country, according to a statement which was fully credited by Oldendorp, himself a writer of most correct judgment and of impeachable veracity, contains many Jews settled in it.
Many Jews settled in it. Now let's go to the top of the next one. Yep.
Who retain their religious rights and the distinct habits which keep them isolated from other nations. Though thus separate from the African population, they are black and resemble the other Negroes in every respect as to physical character.
So though they kept themselves separate, they still looked like them. According to the white man's eye, because they say all black people look alike. But that's besides the point. This is just proving we're there. Go ahead.
It is probably an allusion to this case that Pennington in his textbook says the descendants of a colony of Jews originally from Judea settled on the coast of Africa are black.
That's good right there. Next slide. Now the next slide, you're going to see this map, right? Now, this is all trade routes that were centralized in Timbuktu, right? You even see the Moroccan coin used in Sangai, right? But this is also showing you what? Because they also like to say, there's no way they could have traveled all the way to West Africa. Well, there was trade routes all throughout there, through the desert. So this right here also validates that it's very possible. It's more than possible. People are more than capable of traveling back and forth in antiquity. Okay?
They had stops.
That's the point. They had stops.
Yeah.
It's very simple. Next slide. See that? Now, did Jewish slave masters teach us Judaism? Because this is another argument, right? And we about to wrap up, so everybody bear with me. Almost
So
finished.
good, brother.
You know, about to wrap up. So go ahead, read that.
Did Jewish slave masters teach us Judaism? So you can read this.
Read the appearance. Let's start right there. The appearance.
The appearance. The appearance of free blacks or slaves in Jewish synagogues in the South was bound to be a rare occurrence, since most synagogues had rules that precluded them from membership. From this, Korn concluded that it provided evidence that Jewish slave owners in the United States did not proselytize among their slaves.
They did not proselytize among their slaves. So no, the slaves were not saying they were Jews because they were getting converted by what was 80% of the slave masters that were Jewish. That's a false narrative. Good.
Slave owners in the United States did not proselytize among their slaves or offer them instruction in Judaism, since they were unwelcome in the synagogues, and it.
Nah, that's good right there.
Bomb.
I cut it off right there.
I see that. It's a lot here.
Next one. No? Were Jews from Spain and Portugal white? This is another question. Right? And then we're going to talk about when the white people got there. Anyway, let's go.
All righty.
The one on the left first.
The Spanish and Portuguese Jews claim their descent from the tribe of Judah. In consequence of this supposed superiority, they have not till lately married or in any way incorporated with their brethren of other nations. They had separate synagogues. And if a Portuguese Jew, even in England or Holland, married a German Jewish.
So if they married one of those white converts over there, go ahead.
He was immediately expelled from the synagogue.
What does that show you? We're the real ones. They're the fake ones. Go ahead. Next source on the right.
Okay. Thus, the black color is found not only in individuals as the black Jews of Portugal, but in tribes as the
Bakaris
on the Red Sea, whose hair and character are perfectly Semitic. And the white color and the brutalized descendants of certain exiled Irish of Ulster, whose features are almost of the African type.
Next source. So you're seeing what's in Spain and Portugal. There you go. Black Jews.
I can't see this. It's clean.
You can't see it? Can you see it up here?
I can see it clean on the TV. Bet you could. I'll read it from right here. Thus, the Jews are a people who have ever, according to the prophecy, dwelt alone, without intermixing with the nations to this day. Now, this separate race, all descended from brown ancestors.
Go ahead.
For Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob must have been as dark as Mar Yohanan, if not darker. Exhibit every shade of color from the black Jews of Malabar, of whom we have such an interesting account by Dr. Claudius Buchanan. To the rose and lily complexion, of the Jewesses on the banks of the
Elbe.
Go figure. We need go no further than the Jews of southern Spain and compare them with those of Holland and northern Germany.
Watch this.
To perceive a very striking difference.
Go ahead.
The Spanish Jew is always dark complexion.
It's always dark complexion. Well, come on, bro. Go ahead.
And his hair is uniformly black. Come on now. While the German Jew is often as fair as any German.
So he's like the German Jew is just like the other Germans over there. Go ahead.
And has light or red hair with blue eyes.
That's good right there. So you see there's a difference. There's a difference. Next source.
Sources, did Jews that suffered the Inquisition go into slavery?
So now, did Jews that suffer the Inquisition go into slavery? Go ahead.
In the confusion following the invasion of Charles,
The eighth.
Charles VIII in 1495, the people rose against them.
Which are the Jews, okay?
Many abandoned their religion to escape slaughter or slavery. Many were carried off to distant lands and sold as slaves.
So once again, Jews going into distant lands as slaves. Next source. All Spanish.
He got there already?
Yeah, he's there.
All Spanish Jews who were still in Portugal in 1493 were enslaved by King John. The children were sent to the Isles of St. Thomas off the coast of Africa.
Now we're going to correlate that one with the next source. Go ahead.
The Jew in the Medieval War, a source book, Jacob Rader Marcus.
No. What are you doing?
Go back.
Go back, the first slave.
He did? Come. The first slave trade voyage known to have sailed directly from Africa to the Americas arrived in Santo Domingo on the island Hispaniola in 1525. The ship's cargo consisted of nearly 200 captives purchased in Sao Tome,
which is St. Thomas. So the first slave voyage went to the same place where the Jews of Portugal were exported to. You can't make this stuff up.
Quick question.
Yes.
Is it St. Thomas where they grabbed people from to bring them on the voyage in 1492 as interpreters?
No.
That's not the same island?
It is the same island, but the interpreters were already, most of the interpreters were already in Spain. Like Luis de Torres was already from Spain. He was a converso.
Okay.
So he converted to Christianity. That's why he didn't have to leave.
Okay.
That's a whole nother breakdown in itself. Yeah.
Several additional slave ships disembarked enslaved Africans in Hispaniola, Cuba, Puerto Rico, and Jamaica during the late 1520s and 1530s.
So all of these black Jews from Portugal were sent to the Caribbean islands. The first stop where they were sent to. Next source. Next slide.
The doctrinal differences of black and white Jews.
Now this is important.
The Talmud, however, was so little known in Spain.
So the Talmud was not really known in Spain, right? The Talmud began to be taught in Spain during the 10th and 11th centuries. In Spain, we're gonna get to why, right? In the last slide. But this is important to know. Go ahead.
The Talmud, however, was so little known in Spain that they were obliged to send deputies to the Babylonian academies to decide the disputes which arose among them. Even the prayers which they offered up on the Grand Expiation Day and other national fasts were composed by one of the Babylonian rabbis, Hashmiam II.
So, this guy. Come on, throw me off. So this right here, we're going to get into when this actually began to go into Spain. All right? Because as the white man always does, it comes in crafty. Last slide. We're going to close. Oh, no. You can read that? Where it says Khazars in Spain.
Gotta zoom in. He got it.
You can read it from right there? It's a little blurry.
You got it, Cole?
Yes, get that. Come on.
He got it.
You got it? Go ahead.
Explain. Come on.
I would have got it then.
Yeah, you would have tried. Khazars in Spain. It is said that many royal Khazars immigrated to Spain after the 11th century.
After the 11th century. But if they began to go there little by little since the 10th, but in heavy numbers after the 11th century. Keep reading.
It is also possible that Khazar merchants arrived in Spanish port cities since the Moorish rulers were tolerant of Jews.
Go ahead.
In Safarha, a Kabbalah composed in 1161, Abraham ibn Daud stated that descendants of the Khazars were studying in Toledo during his lifetime. Ibn Daud added that these Khazars were rabbinical Jewish students. The Talmud. Go ahead. Perhaps these scholars came to Spain from Kievan Rus. Dunlop wondered whether the Khazars in Spain may have contributed to information about their people to the Spanish Jews through oral testimonies, and he also entertained the notion that books of the Khazars containing historical details about the Khazars might actually have been brought to Toledo. Such oral and written statements, supplementing information that could be gleaned from the exchange of letters between Hassadi ibn Sharprut and King Joseph, then theoretically could have helped Yehuda Halevi compose a brief account of the Khazars that appeared in 2 sections of his famous book, Sefer HaKuzari, which contains a few details not found in the Hasdai Joseph correspondence or in other known extant texts. Whether books of Khazars existed or not will probably remain a tantalizing mystery.
So this is when you see a Talmudic influence within Spain. When just by coincidence, you see Khazars entering Spain from Germany. Right? So that's all I got. I didn't want to keep y'all here all night, even though I have a lot more. But anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? Well, it depends what you're talking about.
It was a question in the chat.
I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, it's a lot.
So the slaves to Louisiana, honestly, most of them will be Levi. If you know, believe it or not, a lot of them will be Levi. And West Indies, yes, they will be Benjamin. Levi was scattered more than any other tribe. Along with Judah. Yeah.
Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28. I had this earlier, but verse 28. Chapter 28, verse 25. The Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thy enemies. Thou shalt go out one way against them and flee 7 ways before them. It shall be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth.
That's a good precept. Any other questions? Questions on YouTube, Clubhouse, class.
Those sources you said you're gonna put up.
That's the question you got, brother?
Got
This guy. I said I'm gonna send them to you, man. Got you. Don't worry.
Hey, yo.
Nobody else got any questions? Okay. I guess they all understand what was brought out. All praises.
There's a lot of outsiders, you know what I mean? There's a lot of
what?
Like reading extra outside sources, so it's kind of like
exhaustive.
Yeah,
it's exhaustive.
Yeah. Together.
All praises. I actually had to take a lot out. I'm not gonna lie.
But you did.
I didn't want to be here all night. I got work in the morning.
Jeez.
4 in the morning, I gotta wake up. Come on. Me too. Shout out to the brothers who got slavery. All right, no questions, man. I guess we're gonna close. Who got you got something? All right.
Upon you walk done. This is Psalms chapter 7. O Lord my God, indeed do I put my trust. Save me from all them that persecute me and deliver me, lest he tear my soul like a lion, render it into pieces, while there is none to deliver. O Lord my God, if I have done this, if there be iniquity in my hands, if I have rewarded evil unto him that was at peace with me, yea, I have delivered him that without cause of my enemy. Let the enemy persecute my soul and take it. Yea, let him tread down my life upon the earth and lay my honor in the dust. Arise, O Lord, in thine anger. Look up thyself because of the rage of my enemies, and awake for me to the judgment that thou hast commanded. So shall the congregation of the people compass thee about. For their sakes, therefore return thou on nigh, on high. The Lord shall judge the people. Judge me, O Lord, according to my righteousness, and according to my integrity that is in me. Oh, let the wickedness of the wicked come to an end, but establish the just, for the righteousness of God trieth the heart of and reigns. My defense is of God, which saveth the upright in heart. God judges the righteous, and God is angry with the wicked every day. If he turn not, he will whet his sword. He hath bent his bow and made it ready. He hath also prepared for him the instruments of death. He ordained the arrows against the persecutors. Behold, he traveleth with iniquity, and hath conceived mysteries, and brought forth falsehood. He made a pit and digged it, and is fallen into the ditch which he had made. His mischief shall return upon his own head, and his violent dealings shall come down upon his own pate. I will praise the Lord according to his righteousness, and will sing praise to his name of the Lord the Most High. Aman. Aman Shabbat. Aman Barak. Yahweh Shem Yahshua Brakatham.
Yahweh Shem Yahshua Brakatham.
Ayo, Shalom.